Now, before I can actually make any kind of podcast episode for you guys, I want to explain one thing. Have you guys heard about Anchor? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain how. One, it's free. Two, there's just many tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And it'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other things like iTunes and such. You can make more money from your podcast regardless on how much you have already. So it's like extra money. Hello, who doesn't like free money? And then, it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one spot. So whenever you can, just download the free Anchor app at, your iTunes store, your Apple store, or your Google Play store, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thanks, y'all. Okay. Have you ever met that dude? Who? What was his name? Any of them? Good morning.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad. How's it going with you?
Excellent. Yo, good to see you.
Yo.
All right. Well, we're gonna have a good time here. Story time. Welcome to Story Time with Izzii, featuring Sarah Del Valle. She'll be our host, our reader extraordinaire, and we're going to be reading. What are we going to be reading today, Sarah?
It's going to be Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat.
Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat. And uh, yeah, and what's his website here?
It's going to be if you guys wanted to follow along, you can go onto the poststories.com or poststories.com.
Nice. Yes, that's right.
If you wanted to
So,
read along with it.
yeah, if you want to read along, everybody, like Sarah was just saying, you can read along with The Black Cat at www.poststories.com. I think you can just put poststories.com. Don't worry about the www if you want to get there quicker. Poststories.com.
Sure.
Yeah, and then and oh, Sarah's gonna be reading only about half of The Black Cat today. Why is that, Sarah?
Yes. Because I looked at the story on the poststories.com and I realized it's a little long to do it in one part, but
Yeah. So
the
it's
second
pretty
part will come
long.
back.
And I know some of you would probably want to hear the whole thing all at one chunk, but Sarah's going to read part of it. And
Sorry, y'all.
we're going to do part
Just can't do
one
the
and
whole.
part two.
Yes. Today is
All
part
right.
one.
So let me see here. All right. So, Sarah, are you ready?
I'm ready. How's are you? You guys ready?
Ready to go. All right.
All right. Hardy.
Let's take it away.
Okay.
Put my headphones on so I
It's
can hear you better too. Let's do it.
all right. Let's do it. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. For the most wild yet most homely narrative which I am about to pen, I neither expect nor solicit belief. Mad indeed would I be to expect it, in a case where my very senses reject their own evidence. Yet, mad am I not, and very surely do I not dream. But tomorrow I die, and today I would unburthen my soul. My immediate purpose is to place before the world, plainly, succinctly, and without comment, a series of mere household events. And their consequences, their events have terrified, have tortured, and have destroyed me. Yet I will not attempt to expound them. To me, they have presented little but horror. To many, they will seem less terrible than baroques. Hereafter, perhaps, some intellect may be found which will reduce my phantasm to the commonplace. Some intellect more calm, more logical, and far less excitable than my own, which will perceive in the circumstances I detail with awe, nothing more than an ordinary succession of very natural causes and effects. From my infancy, I was noted for the docility and humanity of my disposition. My tenderness of heart was even so conspicuous as to make me the jest of my companions. I was especially fond of animals and was indulged by my parents with a great variety of pets. With these I spent most of my time and never was so happy as when feeding and caressing them. This peculiarity of character grew with my growth, and in my manhood I derived from it one of my principal sources of pleasure. To those who have cherished an affection for a faithful and sagacious dog, I need hardly be at the trouble of explaining the nature of the intensity of the gratification thus derivable. There is something in the unselfish and self-sacrificing love of a brute which goes directly to the heart of him who has had frequent occasion to test the paltry friendship and gossamer fidelity of mere men. I married early and was happy to find in my wife a disposition not uncongenial with my own. Observing my partiality for domestic pelts, she lost no opportunity of procuring those of the most agreeable kind. We had birds, goldfish, a fine dog, rabbits, a small monkey, and a cat. This latter was a remarkably large and beautiful animal, entirely black and sagacious to an astonishing degree. And speaking of his intelligence, my wife, who at heart was not a little tinctured with superstition, made frequent allusion to the ancient popular notion, which regarded all black cats as witches in disguise. Not that she was ever serious upon this point, and I mention the matter at all for no better reason than that it happens just now to be remembered. Pluto, this was the cat's name, was my favorite pet and playmate. I alone fed him, and he attended me wherever I went about the house. It was even with difficulty that I could prevent him from following me through the streets. Our friendship lasted in this manner for several years, during which my general temperament and character, through the instrumentality of the fiend intemperance, had, I blush to confess it, experienced a radical alteration for the worse. I grew, day by day, more moody, more irritable, more regardless of the feelings of others. I suffered myself to use intemperate language to my wife. At length, I even offered her personal violence. My pets, of course, were made to feel the change of my disposition. I not only neglected, but ill-used them. For Pluto, however, I still retained sufficient regard to restrain me from maltreating him, as I made no scruple of maltreating the rabbits, the monkey, or even the dog, when by accident or through affection they came in my way. But my disease grew upon me, for what disease is like alcohol? And at length, even Pluto, who was now becoming old and consequently somewhat peevish, even Pluto began to experience the effects of my ill temper. One night, returning home much intoxicated from one of my haunts about town, I fancied that the coat avoided my presence. I'm sorry, the cat, not the coat. Avoided my presence. I seized him when, in his fright at my violence, he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. The fury of a demon instantly possessed me. I knew myself no longer. My original soul seemed at once to go take its flight from my body, and a more than fiendish malevolence, gin-nurtured, thrilled every fibre of my frame. I took from my waistcoat pocket a penknife, opened it, grasped the poor beast by the throat, and deliberately cut one of its eyes from the socket. I blush, I bum, I shudder, while I pen the damnable atrocity. Oh my God. When reason returned with the morning, when I had slept off the fumes of the night's deep debauch, I experienced a sentiment half of horror, half of remorse, for the crime of which I had been guilty. But it was at best a feeble and equivocal feeling, and the soul remained untouched. I again plunged into excess, and soon drowned in wine all memory of the deed. In the meantime, the cat slowly recovered. The socket of the lost eye presented, it is true, a frightful appearance, but he no longer appeared to suffer any pain. He went about the house as usual, but as expected, fled in extreme terror at my approach. I had so much of my old heart left as to be at first grieved by this evident dislike on the part of a creature which had once so loved me. But this feeling soon gave place to irritation, and then came as if to my final and irrevocable overthrow, the spirit of perverseness. Of this spirit philosophy takes no account. Yet I am not more sure that my soul lives than I am that perverseness is one of the primitive impulses of the human heart, one of the indivisible primary faculties or sentiments which give direction to the character of man, who has not 100 times found himself committing a vile or a silly action for no other reason than because he knows he should not. Have we not a perpetual inclination in the teeth of our best judgment to violate that which is law, merely because we understand it to be such? This spirit of perverseness, I say, came to my final overthrow. It was this unfathomable longing of the soul to vex itself, to offer violence to its own nature, to do wrong for the wrong's sake only, that urged me to continue and finally to consummate the injury I had inflicted upon the unoffending brute. One morning, in cool blood, I slipped a noose around its neck and hung it to a limb of a tree. Hung it with the tears streaming from my eyes and with the bitterest remorse at my heart. I hung it because I knew that it had loved me, and because I felt it had given me no reason of offense. Hung it because I knew that in so doing I was committing a sin a deadly sin that would so jeopardize my immortal soul as to place it, if such a thing were possible, even beyond the reach of the infinite mercy of the most merciful and most terrible God. Oh my God. I am above the weakness of seeking to establish a sequence of cause and effect between the disaster and the atrocity, but I am detailing a chain of facts and wish not to leave even a possible link imperfect. On the day succeeding the fire, I visited the ruins. The walls, with one exception, had fallen in. This exception was found in a compartment wall, not very thick, which stood about the middle of the house, and against which had rested the head of my bed. The plastering had here, in great measure, resisted the action of the fire, a fact which I could attributed to its having been recently spread. About this wall a dense crowd were collected, and many persons seemed to be examining a particular portion of it, with very minute and eager attention. The words strange and singular and other similar expressions excited my curiosity. I approached and saw, as if graven in bas relief upon the white surface, the figure of a gigantic cat. The impression was given with an accuracy truly marvelous. There was a rope about the animal's neck. When I first beheld this apparition, for I could scarcely regard it as less, my wonder and my terror were extreme. But at length reflection came to my aid. The cat, I remembered, had been hung in a garden adjacent to the house. Upon the alarm of fire, this garden had been immediately filled by the crowd, by someone of whom the animal must have been cut from the tree and thrown through an open window into my chamber. This had probably been done with the view of arousing me from sleep. Yeah. The the falling of other walls had compressed the victim of my cruelty into the substance of the freshly spread plaster. The lime of which, with the flames and the ammonia from the carcass, had then accomplished the portraiture as I saw it. Although I thus readily accounted to my reason, if not altogether to my conscience, for the startling fact just detailed, it did not the less fail to make a deep impression upon my fancy. For months I could not rid myself of the phantasm of the cat, and during this period there came back into my spirit a half sentiment that seemed but was not remorse. I went so far as to regret the loss of the animal and to look about me among the vile haunts which I now habitually frequented for another pet of the same species, and of somewhat similar appearance with which to supply its place. One night I sat half stupefied in a den of more than infamy, my attention was suddenly drawn to some black object reposing upon the head of one of the immense hogsheads of gin or of rum, which constituted the chief furniture of the apartment. I had been looking steadily at the top of this hogshead for some minutes, and what now caused me surprise was the fact that I had not sooner perceived the object thereupon. I approached it and touched it with my hand. It was a black cat, a very large one, fully as large as Pluto, and closely resembling him in every respect but one. Pluto had not a white hair upon any portion of his body, but this cat had a large, although indefinite, splotch of white. covering nearly the whole region of the breast.
Hey, this is starting to get intense. Is this like a ghost cat?
I don't know, but it's like it hurts my heart because it's just like I love cats, and he hung the cat.
Yeah, this is pretty messed up. All right,
That is.
all right. This seems to
Oh
be
my god.
heating up. All right, folks. Sorry about that. Let me whew. All right, let's let Sarah get back to the
Oh
Black
my
Cat. Remember, you can read along at poestories.com.
god. Okay, I'm sorry. Ooh. Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. This is really intense. I didn't think it was this intense. I like it though. It's okay. Upon my touching him, upon my touching him, he immediately arose, purred loudly, rubbed against my hand, and appeared delighted with my notice. This then was the very creature of which I was in search. I at once offered to purchase it of the of the landlord, but this person made no claim to it, knew nothing of it, had never seen it before. I continued my caresses, and when I prepared to go home, the animal evinced a disposition to accompany me. I permitted it to do so, occasionally stooping and patting it as I proceeded. When I reached the house, it domesticated itself at once and became immediately a great favorite with my wife. For my own part, I soon found a dislike to it arising within me. Oh God, he's gonna do it again, isn't he? This was just the reverse of what I had anticipated. But I know not how or why it was. Its evident fondness for myself rather disgusted and annoyed. By slow degrees, these feelings of disgust and annoyance rose into the bitterness of hatred. I avoided the creature, a certain sense of shame, and the remembrance of my former deed of cruelty, preventing me from physically abusing it. I did not, for some weeks, strike or otherwise violently ill use it, but gradually, very gradually, I came to look upon it with an unutterable loathing and to flee silently from its odious presence as from the breath of a pestilence. What added, no doubt, to my hatred of the beast was the discovery on the morning after I brought it home that, like Pluto, it also had been deprived of one of its eyes. This circumstance, however, only endeared it to my wife, who, as I have already said, possessed in a high degree that humanity of feeling which had once been my distinguishing trait and the source of many of my simplest and purest pleasures. Mm.
All
All
right.
right.
Yeah, that's the part one. All right, fantastic. Izzii, Storytime with Izzii,
Yes.
featuring
Thank you. Thank you.
Sarah Del Valle. Del Valle? Why say that? I almost said Valley. Valley and Valle at the same time.
It's all good.
Del Valle.
Yeah. It means
Sarah
of the
Del Valle.
valley. Yeah, it means of
Of
the
the Valley.
valley.
So Sarah Del Valle,
So,
The Valley, Del Valle. No, we're just going to stick with the correct pronunciation of your name, which is Del Valle. Uh, this I like, Del Valle.
this is Hakeem is the actual first person who said my name right the first time.
I do my best. I have my moments. So, folks, you can you can read The Black Cat on poestories.com. It's a phenomenal site featuring the work of course, who? Who's on there? Sarah? Whose work did I feature?
Um,
On poster?
Edgar Allan
Scratch?
Poe.
Oh, who else, right? Edgar Allan Poe. So you can go there and read
The
The Black
Poe.
Cat,
The Poe man.
and we're going to do part two sometime soon. When are you going to bring part two of The Black Cat to them with your reading?
It's either going to be um tomorrow in the afternoon, like early afternoon or evening. Yes. I'm not sure which one,
All
but it'll
right.
be one of those. But it'll be tomorrow, no doubt, or today.
it's already it's
Yeah,
two
it's
almost
like
3 o'clock
it's
in
like
the morning.
yeah.
We're already there.
It's like
We're
12
already
minutes
there.
before 3.
Okay. All right. Anything we need to know? You want anybody to know before we sign off, or
Yes,
would it
if
be
you have a suggestion of a story or a poem of Edgar Allan Poe, please send it in and it will go onto the list so that we can, work go do patterned. But if you would like to send any other kind of stories of a different author, that is fine too. Just, it'll be a little bit later. It's gonna be on a waiting
yeah? It
list.
doesn't have to be Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah, it doesn't have to be Edgar Allan Poe.
We had to poe it out though.
Yeah, we're gonna Poe it all over you.
Gotta poe it out.
We're
I'm
gonna
sorry.
Poe it
That
all.
was
All
funny.
right. So, all right. Yeah, that's it. Well, thanks
But
for
yes.
joining us for Storytime with Izzii, featuring Sarah Del Valle,
Thank you.
Hakeem
Yes,
Alipofis,
yes, thank you.
Alexander.
Mr.
Tonight
Hakim,
she
the
read.
moderator.
Right, she read The Black Cat, and you can find that on ProStories.com.
Yeah.
All right then. Until next time, y'all. Stay well.
Yay! Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Hakim. Appreciate it. Indulge.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-oh. Mr. Extra said he's at work. So he's not able
Yeah.
to join in like that.
It's all good. Vladdy was here. We had
Yes,
crew.
yes. Hello, Vladdy. Hello to everyone on here as well that decided to come and listen. Hope you enjoyed this. It's, I think it's pretty awesome. Poe is the most awesomest author out there. And then you got the Shakespeare, of course. But Shakespeare's a little harder to read. Even though I kind of like some Shakespeare. But, yeah.
I think Shakespeare's
A
hard
little
to
harder
read.
to read. It depends on the actual story or play or whatnot.
Well, what are you trying to read from Shakespeare?
Hamlet's not hard.
Beth, uh,
What was that?
Romeo and
That-
Juliet,
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet. I don't know how to.
Othello,
You said what?
Othello.
Othello. I think it's like the very first. What was that one? Oh my god! I think it starts with a B. Beowulf. Who's that?
Shakespeare wrote
That
Beowulf.
wasn't from Shakespeare. Was it? Never mind. Don't listen to me, y'all. Don't
I
listen
don't
to
know.
me.
I mean, it might have been. He just made me question my memory there. I don't know.
No, your memory's probably right. My memory's wrong completely.
I don't know. I don't
I
remember. I mean, it could be. I mean, I don't know.
who's it by?
Uh,
Oh my god.
Would tell me, hold on.
I would ask. I
I
would.
had a computer
oh
in
well.
front of me.
Okay, I'm about to look. That's why.
That's okay, I was gonna ask Siri.
Well, ask Siri if you want to. Beowulf. You. Okay, uh,
Is that the Hey
uh,
Ariel? What's up, Little Mermaid? Is that her over there talking to you?
yeah. She's poking fun at me.
What's up? Well, yeah, I don't think it's. I'm looking here. Beowulf is an Old English epic poem in the tradition of Germanic heroic legend,
Yeah.
consisting of
I had to use it. I
3,000.
had to read that for work, for school. I
Yeah.
didn't. It was
Well,
very bad. I failed. I failed completely.
A
well,
slip.
It says
I
unknown.
think anybody would. Yeah, exactly. So we don't know really
That's not
about
right.
Beowulf. Yeah.
They don't know who wrote it.
Oh my god.
People don't know everything.
Oh, by the way, everybody, I have my friend Little Mermaid here.
What's up, Ariel? Little Mermaid. Woot.
That's it's because I want people to understand, people to understand, like, or know
Using
who.
my government name.
No, I'm not. I said the Little Mermaid. That's not your government name.
Technically, it is, but
Who's the author of this thing? Oh my god.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I don't know who the author is.
it's
It's
all
not
good.
showing me.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. At least right now, we have a good author focus for Edgar Allan Poe. But yeah, Beowulf. I think it's just because it's unknown. It's probably one of those. It's like a folktale or a legend that they can't trace to original authors. So you're probably never gonna find Victor Beowulf. Uh,
Oh,
is
okay,
that
makes sense
is that
then.
what you're still looking for? I was like, yeah,
I
just
was I
okay,
was
fine.
looking for it, but
For the
everything says
author,
unknown.
yeah, it's
It-
probably
yeah,
some deeply
that's
entrenched
so
like
sad.
urban legend or something. Who knows? So
Somebody German, apparent. I think I know that
yeah,
part.
it's so Beowulf. Yeah, very very old story.
Okay, no, it's all good then. Beowulf, you'll have to be on hold. I don't know who wrote you, but I could not understand a word that thing said. But anyway.
what are you talking about?
We could.
Next one?
I really at one point in time want to start constructing. You know, somebody told me about a really great idea today, and I can't talk about it, but it's just so good. I gotta respect their
Good man, this is gonna give me nightmares about a cat.
Good thing we didn't choose.
the black cat.
And I saw a black cat today too.
It's okay. Charlie fell off it.
Yeah, you told me that.
Aw,
She was
my
asleep.
cat fell off the pedestal.
She was asleep.
All right.
And she stretched.
Aw,
Hey, look at that. You know, it took us less than 30 minutes to read that first part one of
see,
Black
that makes
Cat.
me just want to keep going.
You can't. You done told me.
I mean, that's up to you if you want to finish it.
How's
Now,
the rest of it? I really don't look that bad. I think it's like after I think I
finish
had
what?
to read it in order to realize how far it would, how long it is.
Right, because this is a cold reading you're doing, so you haven't read it before, so, you know.
Yeah,
But that's up to you. Start a new
this
room
whole
or do a part two another day or,
all these um yeah, I'm probably gonna I have to I'm gonna reread it or read it first, and so I can actually get these words down. So I'm not because I get
well, if
embarrassed
you
and I
do or if
can't
you don't,
figure out what the word is. Sorry.
if you do or if you don't, you're good. So whether you want to read it first or not, it's up to you.
Hmm. Hmm. Um. I, pro-
And then we'll pop
I might
into
come
a
back on.
part,
I
part.
might do a part two still. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, y'all. I know y'all want to
All
hear
right.
the rest of this, even though you probably already read it before, like a long time ago. But
Sometimes people like the audiobook version, so that's what you're gonna give them.
yeah, that's what I'm doing for you. I'm audiobooking it,
Audio file it.
filing it in audios. I don't know what that means, but I do appreciate everybody that came
Neither
on
do
here
I.
and actually listened to it, though. Thank you. Y'all making my library dream come true. And thank you to Mr. Hakeem for making it truer.
Library.
Is that a word?
I'm just I'm just a guy trying to moderate a show with a with a featured artist.
I have a mental library. I kind of like it.
All right, let's bounce on
Oh,
out of here. 30
oh
minutes,
yeah, sorry.
and let's get to the next strategy plan. What do you say?
Sounds like a plan, Stan.
All right, let's do it. Kick us on out of here.
All right. Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
How art thou?
Thou art well.
That is
Story time
awesome.
with Izzii. Black Cat Part 2, huh?
Yes, yes.
There you go. Hey, let's do some stylistic stuff with poststories.com. What if you here's some crazy stuff that I do. Make the P and the S capital letters so that they can see the difference that it's one word. I don't know, for some reason that just sticks out. I know it's one word to make to show the basic website. Let's stylize that. Anybody?
You said a P,
Yeah, the P in Poe.
the P
Yeah,
and the S?
and the S for stories. Yeah. And then, so then people can see it'll stick out. It'll be like a
Okay.
little stylistic thing. So thanks for popping through, Angelica Quinones,
Thank
Sunny Parlett. We're going to be doing some reading, story time with Izzii. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So
Yay.
let me let's get going here. So let's do a little check. Let's a little check, Sarah. Do we have? You've got poststories.com opened up, ready to read, right? Check. All right. Microphone
Yes, sir.
check.
Check.
All right. Your voice sounds good. How do I sound?
Check.
Good. Good check. All right. And then
Good check. Good check,
let's see.
sir.
You're comfortable. You're ready to go with Post Stories. We did a little practice reading. All right. So
Yeah,
story time.
I am ready to start
All right.
there.
So
Yeah.
let's do this for the listeners, live and recorded. Here we go. Everybody, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good time wherever you are. Welcome to Story Time with Izzii, featuring our reader, Sarah Del Valle. And today we are going to be reading.
Yay.
What are we going to be reading, Sarah?
We are reading the second part of The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe.
The second, yeah, part two is earlier, a few hours earlier, maybe yesterday. I don't even know what time it was. Our days are just rolling right into each other. You read The Black Cat,
Yeah.
and you read the first half of it. And now we're going to pick
Yes.
up with part two. And Sarah, what year was The Black Cat published?
It was published in 1845.
1845. And folks, if you want to be able to read along with The Black Cat as read by Sarah Del Valle for Story Time with Izzii, you can get it at the site you see here in the description, postories.com. And on postories.com, you will click under the section Stories. There's a little hamburger menu covering up the black crow's tail at the top yellow banner that says poststories.com. And you click on that little hamburger menu, click on
Mm-hmm.
Stories. A list will pop up, and the black cat is the fourth one from the top of the list. You just click on that link, and it'll take you to the Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe, published 1845. And then you're going to want to scroll down because Sarah read yesterday all the way to the middle where there is a line.
Yeah.
So there's a paragraph that ends with many of my simplest and purest pleasures. So that's the last sentence she wrote. It ends with many of my simplest and purest pleasures. And that's the paragraph that has the word Pluto in it. And then we're going to start today with a sentence that starts with my aversion to this cat. However, its partiality for myself seems to increase. So we're going to start there. It has the word pertinacity in there. You can see it's a highlight link for their word list. Yep.
It's
So,
highlighted blue.
all right, once again, here we are. Story time with Izzii, featuring our dear reader, Sarah Del Valle. And we are reading The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe, This is part two. If you want to listen to part one, you can listen to part one by visiting Sarah Del Valle's wisdom profile and looking at her talks, and you will see part one there. Okay, we're ready to do it. Are you ready, Sarah?
Yeah.
All right.
Yay. I
As
am ready.
Rodney would say, let's go. All right.
With my aversion to this cat, however, it's partially for myself. Oh, partiality for myself seemed to increase. It followed my footsteps with a pertinacity which it would be difficult to make the reader comprehend. Whenever I sat, it would crouch beneath my chair or spring upon my knees, covering me with its loathsome caresses. If I rose to walk, it would get between my feet and thus nearly throw me down, or, fastening its long and sharp claws into my dress, clamber in this manner to my breast. At such times, although I longed to destroy it with a blow, I was yet withheld from so doing, partly by a memory of my former crime, but chiefly, let me confess it at once, by absolute dread of the beast. This dread was not exactly a dread of physical evil, and yet I should be at a loss how otherwise to define it. I am almost ashamed to own, yes, even in this felon's cell, I am almost ashamed to own that the terror and horror with which the animal inspired me had been heightened by one of the merest chimeras it would be possible to conceive. My wife had called my attention more than once to the character of the mark of white hair, of which I have spoken, and which constituted the sole visible difference between the strange beast and the one I had destroyed. The reader will remember that this mark, although large, had been originally very indefinite. But by slow degrees nearly imperceptible, and which for a long time my reason struggled to reject as fanciful, it had at length assumed a rigorous distinctness of outline. It was now the representation of an object that I shuddered to name. And for this, above all, I loathed and dreaded, and would have rid myself of the monster that had I dared. It was now, I say, the image of of a ghastly thing, of the gallows. O mournful and terrible engine of horror and of crime, of agony and of death. And now was I indeed wretched beyond the wretchedness of mere humanity, and a brute beast, whose fellow I had contemptuously destroyed, a brute beast to work out for me, a man, fashioned in the image of a high God, so much of insufferable woe. Alas, neither by day nor by night knew I the blessing of rest any more. During the former creature left me no moment alone, and in the latter I started, hourly, from dreams of un- unutterable fear, to find the hot breath of the thing upon my face and its vast weight an incarnate nightmare that I had no power to shake off, incubant incubant eternally upon my heart. Beneath the pressure, beneath the pressure of torments such as these, the feeble remnant of the good within me succumbed. Evil thoughts became my sole intimates, the darkest and the most evil of thoughts. The moodiness of my usual temper increased to hatred of all things and of all mankind, while from the sudden, frequent, and ungovernable outbursts of a fury to which I now blindly abandoned myself, my uncomplaining wife, alas, was the most usual and the most patient of sufferers. One day she accompanied me upon some household errand,
into the cellar of the old building which our poverty compelled us to inhabit. Sorry. The cat followed me down the steep stairs and, nearly throwing me headlong, exasperated me to madness. Uplifting an axe and forgetting, in my wrath, the childish dread which had hither, hitherto stayed my hand, I aimed a blow at the animal which, of course, would have proven instantly fatal had it descended as I wished. But this blow was arrested by the hand of my wife, goaded by the interference into a rage more than demoniacal. I withdrew my arm from her grasp and buried the axe in her brain. She fell dead upon the spot without a groan. This hideous murder accomplished, I set myself forthwith and with entire deliberation to the task of concealing the body. I knew that I could not remove it from the house, either by day or by night, without the risk of being observed by the neighbors. Many projects entered my mind. At one period, I thought of cutting the corpse into minute fragments and destroying them by fire. At another, I resolved to dig a grave for it in the floor of the cellar. Again, I deliberated about casting it in the well in the yard, about packing it in a box, as if merchandise, with the usual arrangements, and so getting a porter to take it from the house. Finally, I hit upon what I considered a far better expedient than either of those. I determined to wall it up in the cellar, as the monks of the Middle Ages are recorded to have walled up their victims. For a purpose such as this, the cellar was well adapted. Its walls were loosely constructed and had lately been plastered throughout with a rough plaster, which the dampness of the atmosphere had prevented from hardening. Moreover, in one of the walls was a projection, caused by a false chimney or fireplace, that had been filled up and made to resemble the rest of the cellar. I made no doubt that I could readily displace the bricks at this point, insert the corpse, and wall the whole up as before, so that no eye could detect anything suspicious. And in this calculation I was not deceived. By means of a crowbar, I easily dislodged the bricks, and, having carefully deposited the body against the inner wall, I propped it up in that position, while, with little trouble, I relaid the whole structure as it originally stood. Having procured mortar, sand, and hair with every possible precaution, I prepared a plaster which could not be distinguished from the old, and with this I very carefully went over the new brickwork. When I had finished, I felt satisfied that all was right. The wall did not present the slightest appearance of having been disturbed. The rubbish on the floor was picked up with the minutest care. I looked around triumphantly and said to myself, "Here at last, then, my labor has not been in vain." My next step was to look for the beast which had been the cause of so much wretchedness, for I had, at length, firmly resolved to put it to death. Had I been able to meet with it at the moment, there could have been no doubt of its fate. But it appeared that the crafty animal had been alarmed at the violence of my previous anger, and forebore to present itself in my present mood. It is impossible to describe or to imagine the deep, the blissful sense of relief which the absence of the detested creature occasioned in my bosom. It did not make its appearance during the night, and thus for one night at least, since its introduction into the house, I soundly and tranquilly slept. I slept even with the burden of murder upon my soul. The second and the third day passed, and still my tormentor came not. Once again I breathed as a free man. The monster, in terror, had fled the premises forever. I should behold it no more. My happiness was supreme. The guilt of my dark deed disturbed me but little. Some few inquiries had been made, but these had been readily answered. Even a search had been instituted, but of course nothing was to be discovered. I looked upon my future felicity as secure. On the fourth day of the assassination, a party of the police came, very unexpectedly, into the house and proceeded again to make rigorous investigation of the premises. Secure, however, in the inscrutability of my place of concealment, I felt no embarrassment whatsoever. The officers bade me accompany them in their search. They left no nook or corner unexplored. At length, for the third or fourth time, they descended into the cellar. I quivered not in a muscle. My heart beat calmly as that of one who slumbers in innocence. I walked the cellar from end to end. I folded my arms upon my bosom and roamed easily to and fro. The police were thoroughly satisfied and prepared to depart. The glee at my heart was too strong to be restrained. I burned to say if but one word, by way of triumph, and to render doubt doubly sure their assurance of my guiltlessness. Gentlemen, I said at last, as the party ascended the steps, I delight to have allayed your suspicions. I wish you all health and a little more courtesy. By the by, gentlemen, this is a very well constructed house. In the rabid desire to say something easily, I scarcely knew what I uttered at all. I may say an excellently well constructed house. These walls. Are you going, gentlemen? These walls are solidly put together. And here, through the mere frenzy of bravado, I rapped heavily with a cane, which I held in my hand, upon that very portion of the brick work behind which stood the corpse of the wife of my bosom. But may God shield and deliver me from the fangs of the arch-fiend. No sooner had the reverberation of my blows sunk into silence than I was answered by the voice from within the tomb, by a cry at first muffled and broken, like the sobbing of a child, and then quickly swelling into one long, loud, and continuous scream, utterly anomalous and inhumane, a howl, a wailing shriek, half of horror and half of triumph, such as might have arisen only out of hell, conjointly from the throats of the damned in their agony and of the demons that exult in the damnation. Of my own thoughts, it is folly to speak. Swooning, I staggered to the opposite wall. For one instant, the party upon the stairs remained motionless, through extremity of terror and of awe. In the next, a dozen stout arms were toiling at the wall. It fell bodily. The corpse, already greatly decayed and clotted with gore, stood erect before the eyes of the spectators. Upon its head, with red extended mouth and solitary eye of fire, sat the hideous beast, whose craft had seduced me into murder, and whose informing voice had consigned me to the hangman. I had walled the monster up within the tomb. The end.
Bravissimo. Sorry, I was typing someone a message
Gracias.
who was came to the room, Miss Marcella. And hey, everybody. Chris, Bot, stopped through. Sam, his hop, stopped through. Cecilia Grace, Marcella, like I said. Tina Mason and Laura Schmidt stopped by. Abigail Barton, Mr. Extra, Mr. 2 Extra. What's up, Extra? Nicole Hope Sylvester stopped by. Marguerite Isaac.
Good morning.
Sushu Chun, the life coach. I spoke to her. She was very helpful speaking to me the other day. She's awesome. You guys got to check her out. I actually follow everybody, but I had a really good connection with her yesterday. Angelina Frost. Hey, Angelina. She's always awesome. She stopped through. The Space Luchador. Dr. Prashant Sharma. I saw him speaking with the other Dr. Rao earlier. They had a great conversation. William Blackfox. Hello. Matthew Burrus. I heard him earlier. I think he just started. He might be new. He had some good things to say. I was like the first person on his talk today, and he said hello to me, so I appreciate that, Matthew. Deborah Barsha. Hey, we were just talking about you yesterday with when Oh my gosh, my throat is dry and my brain is not working for a second because I say her name and talk to
Agua,
her
agua.
all the time. Graciela Moore was talking to me yesterday about Deborah Barsha, and her mom is on here too. They do talk together. Dr. Rao, yes, again, I saw him earlier talking to Dr. Prashant Sharma. They were having a great conversation. G Neon stopped through. Angelica Quinones, Sunny Parlett. So, whether you guys are still here or not, we appreciate you stopping by and listening to this reading when it's story time. Hello, Cotina Floyd and Brittany Moon. If you guys stopped through, welcome. We were reading,
Good morning to
that's
you
right,
all.
Story Time with Izzii, The Black Cat, read by Sarah Del Valle, Part 2. You can read along at
Part
postories.com.
two.
And we already finished this reading, so as soon as this is done, you can listen, read along, send your comments, questions, parting thoughts. Go follow Sarah Del Valle if you guys love learning and love reading. Sarah is helping me out with my World Reading Club, which World Reading Club celebrates the joy of learning through the love of literacy. And right now we're starting off the World Reading Club as a reading club, not necessarily a book club, because we'll be reading all kinds of things. It could be magazine articles, it could be poems, it could be your own spoken word, it could be scientific journal articles, it could be news articles. You can read anything. It's World Reading Club. I launched August 23rd, and we're doing our first book focus on October 24th, 2022, on the book Joy in Plain Sight by Katya Davidova. Thanks for tuning in again. Part one of The Black Cat is here on Wisdom, and this is part two. As soon as this is up, you can check out part one, part two, and Sarah here is doing a wonderful job. So I have to ask you some questions. It is so interesting to me that some of the words that you have difficulty with, and then some of the ones you don't. So to some people, it would seem like, wait a minute, how did she fumble through partiality, but then she like just completely blasts through words like imperceptible, or contemptuously. Yeah,
It's it's a I don't know. I think it's because I think there's other word or letters in it, and so
yeah.
I just look at it real quick and I figure it out. But then like the words that I do mess up, I always think it's a different letter or is there's more letters than there's supposed to be.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. I try
Okay.
and start it over again.
So a little mild dyslexia. And I'm not even saying that lightly. I actually, when I look at some words, they look like they say completely different things. Sometimes, like, I feel like sometimes I'm in the movie They Live. By the way, if people have not seen the movie They Live, you should watch it. But I just think for a person who's cold reading these stories, I mean, and with a writer who's as complex and verbose and just his writing is not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's academic, but it's full of it's very rich. It's very vocabulary rich. And for you to be doing cold reading like this, I'm very impressed. And yeah, I love it. So looking forward to
it's
some more
a
readings. What's
beautiful
going to be?
taste in life.
Yes, it is. Reading is fantastic. I want to know what's the next one you're going to do. Hey, Frankie J, thanks for stopping by. Jeremy, Ooster Wyman. Actually, it's Weeman. Ooster Weeman. Brittany Moon. Hello, hello. So what's the next
Hello,
thing
hello.
you're going to be reading?
Um, well, I'm thinking that uh, I want to do the Black Cat all together, like on one reading.
Okay.
But the next one I kind of want to do. Haven't. Let me see. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I got you. I'm thinking about doing a poem next time. Spirits of the Dead.
Yeah.
I might do Spirits of the Dead.
Okay.
It looks interesting.
Wow. You have yeah, that's gonna be wow. Um,
Yeah, 'cause it was like as soon as I pushed, I went to the poetry side. It said the very
yeah.
first one I saw was Spirits of the Dead.
Yep.
It was it was
Um,
meant to be. It was meant to be. Especially since October is coming up soon too. Getting it ready
mhm,
for Halloween.
yep.
Probably. I'm not mistaken.
So yeah, so we're going to be doing the Black Cat, a full read through of the whole thing, because as we discovered when we were first looking at it, it looked pretty daunting. It looked like a very long read. It looked like it would take a long time, but it looks
Yeah.
like because my countdown is that just hit 35 minutes. So that means we've been here for only 15 minutes, and you've already finished reading like about three minutes ago. So um, I think we can read
So altogether, I think it would be about 45 minutes
maybe, yeah,
of a read.
and
Maybe
maybe
less.
even since you've read it once before, it might be more smooth and may go by a little quicker. Or um, sometimes what happens, maybe you might even slow it down just because you want to, maybe because you're inflecting more and using more of the. I mean, you're really great with your punctuation, but maybe using more emotional reading. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. Um,
I
you
don't know either.
you know you're impressing me so far with these cold read throughs. So we're going to continue that. You're just
Thank
operating off
you.
of like a
Thank
table
you.
of contents instead of reading the stories. We do a little tiny bit of practice before we actually read one paragraph um, over on Callin. Callin is an app where we can have private
Yes.
rooms and we can have group conversations, sort of like Clubhouse and some other places, but it's a little bit more streamlined because it doesn't have all the bells and whistles and things binging and clanging all around. Clubhouse is, you know what I found out? Clubhouse sort of looks like a blend between something like Twitter Spaces or even Callin, but with Clubhouse attached to it because it has those like I think it has like a server feel inside there. Well, I think so. I think they have a server as well, which is what a lot of people use to make announcements to let people know when they're going to go into one of these social audio chat rooms. Um, yeah, so some people use those like
Really?
Discord and things like that to make an announcement because it's not so a person doesn't have to listen to any audio. They just look at a message and it's like, oh, everybody's meeting over here. So that's what they use those things like. It's sort of like a newsletter or a message board, or even like a calendar where you can just like look in every day and you see what's on the board and see what shows are coming up or what's happening. That's what Discord and other servers are like. It's like it's an upgrade on some of the old school servers where people used to just have chat rooms, and there's still a lot of them like that, where it's just text, like uh, like those question asking sites, like where you just go, you ask a question and it's just basically text, and you just see people can add to it, and
Mm-hmm.
then these different threads. So, but anyway, poststories.com is the resource that Sarah Del Valle is
Mm-hmm.
using for to have your listeners, read along with Storytime with Izzii here. And that's the show. That's Sarah Del Valle's stage name, pen name,
Yes, yes.
so to speak. So her artist name. And yeah, thanks. Yeah. What do you got to say about that, Izzy? Um,
Thank you, guys. I love
Yeah,
you
I'm
all.
talking too much. Lady Strom, or yes, Lady Storm. I said Strom like our friend Sandra Strom. Lady Storm, Marcy Ann Cheek, Ishmael, Walking Testament, and Sam Hishop. Welcome back for stopping through. Everybody, thanks for stopping through and listening to Storytime with Izzii. I'm Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander, her moderator and co-host, and this is Sarah Del Valle. We'll catch you on the next wave.
Thank you. Catch you next time.
Yay!